Before I share my story, let me ask you, what would you do if, on the night meant to celebrate your marriage, you were treated like a stranger by the very person you built your life with? I thought I was honoring my husband, giving him the party of his dreams. But when he told me to sit with the staff at a restaurant I paid for, I realized I'd spent years making everyone else comfortable, never asking what I deserved. This isn't just a story about pride or parties. It's about the moment you decide to stop shrinking yourself and the courage it takes to stand up for your own worth, even if it means changing everything. So settle in, because what happened next changed not just my marriage, but the way I see myself forever. The night my husband told me to sit with the staff at our anniversary party, I realized I'd spent my whole life making sure everyone else felt at home, except myself. It started with a list. Not a short one either, but the kind that takes up 3 pages in a spiral notebook, with checkboxes and color-coded highlights. I'd been planning our 20th anniversary party for months, choosing the restaurant, the menu, the guest list, the flowers, the music. I wanted everything to be perfect for David. He'd always loved a big celebration, and after the last few hard years, I thought we both deserved a night to remember. The restaurant was one we'd dreamed about for years, a place with white tablecloths, soft jazz, and a view of the city lights. I'd saved for months, cutting corners where I could, skipping new shoes and salon visits, packing lunches instead of eating out. I wanted to surprise David, to show him how much I loved him, how much I still believed in us. The morning of the party, I woke before dawn, nerves fluttering in my stomach. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and watched the sun rise over the garden. The house was quiet, filled with the ghosts of birthday parties and Christmas mornings, of late-night arguments and whispered apologies. I thought about the years we'd shared, the good times, the hard times, the way we'd always found our way back to each other. David was still asleep, his face peaceful, his hand resting on my pillow. I watched him for a moment, remembering the man I'd fallen in love with, the man who used to bring me wildflowers from the side of the road, who used to dance with me in the kitchen, who used to look at me like I was the only person in the world. Lately, though, things had changed. He was distant, distracted, always on his phone. He started working late, coming home tired, barely touching the dinners I made. I told myself it was just stress, that he was under pressure at work, that things would get better. But deep down, I felt the chill of something I couldn't name. The day of the party was a blur of errands and phone calls. I picked up the cake, checked the flowers, made sure the restaurant had the right wine. I called Ruth, my sister, to double-check the guest list, then called Leela, my best friend, to make sure she'd bring her famous lemon bars. By the time I got home, I was exhausted. I took a quick shower, put on the dress I'd bought months ago, a simple navy blue, nothing flashy, but it made me feel beautiful. I did my hair, my makeup, and stood in front of the mirror, trying to see myself the way David used to. He came home just as I was putting on my earrings. He kissed me on the cheek, his lips cool, his eyes tired. "You look nice," he said, glancing at his watch. "Are you ready?" I nodded, my heart pounding. "I've been looking forward to this." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Let's go." The restaurant was even more beautiful than I remembered. The tables were set with white linens and silver candlesticks, the air filled with the scent of roses and fresh bread. The staff greeted us by name, ushering us to the private dining room I'd reserved. Our friends and family were already there. Ruth and her husband, Leela and her partner, David's colleagues from work, a few old friends from college. Everyone hugged me, complimented my dress, thanked me for the invitation. David basked in the attention, shaking hands, telling stories, laughing louder than I'd heard in months. I watched him, my heart aching with love and something else I couldn't name. Dinner was a blur of laughter and clinking glasses. The food was perfect, the wine flowed, the music was soft and sweet. I watched as David moved from table to table, charming everyone, making sure his boss had the best seat, making jokes with the waiters. At one point, I got up to check on the cake. When I came back, I found my seat taken by one of David's colleagues. I stood there, awkward, unsure where to go. David saw me, waved me over, and said, Why don't you sit with the staff for a bit, Anna? They're in the back room. I want to make sure everyone here has a good time. I stared at him, my heart pounding. But this is our anniversary. He smiled, not unkindly, but distracted. I know, honey, but you're so good with people. Go make sure the staff is happy. I'll come get you when it's time for the toast. I stood there, frozen, as the room buzzed around me. I looked at Ruth, at Leela, at the faces of people I'd invited, people I'd fed, people I'd made room for in my life. I realized then that I'd spent my whole life making sure everyone else felt at home, except myself. I stood there for a moment, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks. I tried to laugh it off, to make a joke, but the words caught in my throat. I glanced at Ruth, who gave me a look that said, "Don't you dare let him get away with this." But I didn't want to make a scene, not tonight, not in front of everyone. So I slipped away, weaving through the tables, past the laughter and the clinking glasses, into the back room where the staff was gathered. They looked up in surprise as I entered, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. "Mrs. Turner, is everything all right?" the manager asked, his voice gentle. I forced a smile, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just needed a break from the crowd. You all are doing a wonderful job." They smiled, offering me a seat, pouring me a glass of water. I sat with them, listening to their stories, their laughter, their dreams. For a little while, I felt more at home with them than I had with my own guests. One of the waitresses, a young woman named Maria, leaned over and whispered, "You're the one who planned all this, right? It's beautiful. I wish my mom would do something like this for my dad." I smiled, my heart aching. "Thank you, Maria. I just wanted everyone to have a good time." She squeezed my hand. "You're a good woman. Don't let anyone make you feel small." After a while, I slipped back into the main room. The party was in full swing. David was giving a toast, his glass raised, his voice booming. He thanked everyone for coming, thanked his boss for the promotion, thanked his friends for their support. He barely mentioned me. I stood at the edge of the room, watching as he basked in the applause, the laughter, the attention. I felt invisible, erased, written out of my own story. Ruth found me by the door, her eyes full of concern. "Are you all right?" I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. "I don't know what I'm doing here, Ruth. I planned this whole thing, paid for everything, and he treats me like I'm the help." She hugged me, her arms warm and strong. "You deserve better, Anna. You always have." After the toast, David finally came over, his smile wide, his eyes bright with wine. "There you are. I was looking for you. Did you check on the staff? Everything good?" I nodded, my voice tight. "Everything's fine." He kissed my cheek, barely touching me. "Good. I want a night to be perfect." I watched him walk away, laughing with his friends, his arm around his boss's shoulders. I realized then that I'd spent years making sure David was happy, making sure he had everything he wanted, making sure our life looked perfect from the outside. But inside, I was lonely. I was tired. I was done. After the party, I helped the staff clean up, stacking plates, folding napkins, sweeping the floor. Maria hugged me before she left, her eyes shining. "Thank you for everything, Mrs. Turner. You made us feel special tonight." I smiled, tears slipping down my cheeks. "Thank you, Maria. You did the same for me." When I got home, the house was dark and quiet. David was already asleep, his suit jacket draped over the chair, his shoes kicked off in the hallway. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the empty sink, the clean counters, the bouquet of flowers I'd bought for the party. I realized then that I was done shrinking myself to fit someone else's story. I poured myself a glass of wine, sat at the kitchen table, and started making a list, not of things to do, but of things I wanted, things I deserved. The next morning, I woke up with a headache and a heaviness in my chest. David was already gone, a note on the counter. "Early meeting. Thanks for last night. You outdid yourself." No, "I love you." No mention of the party or the way he'd treated me, just a thank you as if I were the caterer. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at my list from the night before. At the top, I'd written, "Remember who you are." Below that, I'd started a new kind of to-do list. Take a walk in the park. Call Ruth. Read a book for pleasure. Make dinner just for me. Find out what makes me happy. It felt strange, almost rebellious to put myself first, but I was tired of waiting for someone else to notice me, to appreciate me, to make me feel seen. That afternoon, I called Ruth. She answered on the first ring. "Did you sleep at all?" she asked, her voice gentle. I laughed, the sound brittle. "Not much, but I made a list." She smiled. I could hear it in her voice. "Good, what's on it?" I read her the items, feeling a little silly, but she just said, "It's about time, Anna. You've spent your whole life taking care of everyone else. Now it's your turn." I went for a walk in the park, letting the sun warm my face, the breeze tangle my hair. I watched children play, couples stroll hand in hand, old men play chess under the trees. I felt a pang of envy, but also a flicker of hope. Maybe I could find happiness again. Maybe I could build a life that was mine. When I got home, I found a message from Leela. "Thinking of you. Let's do lunch soon. You deserve a treat." I smiled, feeling a little less alone. That evening, I made dinner just for me, pasta with fresh tomatoes and basil, a glass of wine, a slice of cake I'd hidden in the back of the fridge. I ate at the table, a book open beside me, the house quiet and peaceful. For the first time in a long time, I felt content. But the peace didn't last. That weekend, David hosted a poker night with his friends. I stayed upstairs, reading, trying to ignore the laughter and the clatter of chips. But as I passed by the living room to get a glass of water, I heard him bragging to his friends. "Anna, she's the best hostess. I barely have to lift a finger. She even paid for the anniversary party. Can you believe it? All I had to do was show up." The men laughed, clapping him on the back, raising their glasses. I stood in the hallway, my heart pounding, my hands clenched at my sides. I realized then that David didn't just take me for granted. He didn't see me at all. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the words echoing in my mind. All I had to do was show up. I realized then that I was done waiting for David to change. I was done shrinking myself to fit his world. It was time to take the microphone. The next week, I started noticing things I'd ignored for too long. David was coming home later and later, always with a new excuse: work dinners, networking events, just one more drink with the guys. He was on his phone constantly, texting with a smile I hadn't seen in years, laughing at jokes I wasn't part of. One night, after he'd gone to bed, I found his phone on the kitchen counter. I hesitated, my heart pounding, then picked it up. The passcode was the same as always, our wedding date. I scrolled through his messages, my hands shaking. There she was, Melissa, a woman from his office. The messages were intimate, full of inside jokes, plans to meet, confessions of love. There were photos, too, selfies, dinners, hotel rooms. I felt sick, the truth settling over me like a cold wave. I took pictures of everything, saving them to my own phone. I needed proof, not just for myself, but for Ruth, for Leela, for anyone who might try to tell me I was imagining things. The next morning, I confronted David. I showed him the messages, the photos, the proof. He didn't deny it. He just sat there, his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted any of this." I stared at him, my heart breaking. "But you did. You destroyed our family." He nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. "I know." I called Ruth, my voice trembling. She came over within the hour, wrapping me in a hug, letting me cry until there was nothing left. "You did the right thing," she said, her voice fierce. "You stood up for yourself. That takes guts." I nodded, but the doubt lingered. Did I, or did I just blow up my whole life? She squeezed my hand. "You told the truth. That's never wrong." David moved into the guest room. We barely spoke, except about Bills and Emily. He tried to apologize, tried to explain, but I wasn't ready to listen. I needed time to grieve, to rage, to mourn the life I thought I had. Emily sensed the change. She grew quieter, more withdrawn, her laughter fading. I tried to shield her from the worst of it, but she was old enough to know something was wrong. One night, as I tucked her into bed, She looked up at me, her eyes wide. Are you and Dad getting a divorce? I hugged her close, my heart breaking. I don't know, sweetheart, but whatever happens, I promise we'll be okay. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I love you, Mom. I love you too, Emily, always. That night, I sat on the porch, staring at the stars, the phone in my lap. I realized then that I was done waiting for David to change. I was done shrinking myself to fit his world. It was time to take the microphone and tell my own story. I spent the next few days thinking about what to do. I talked to Ruth and Leela, weighing my options, replaying every moment of the anniversary party in my mind. I thought about the way David had treated me, the way he'd dismissed my feelings, the way he'd taken credit for everything I'd done. I realized then that I didn't just want an apology. I wanted the truth. I wanted to reclaim my voice, my dignity, my place in my own life. So I made a plan. The following weekend, David's company was hosting a charity gala at the same restaurant where we'd had our anniversary party. He asked if I wanted to come, his voice hesitant, his eyes wary. I think it would be good for us, he said. A chance to show everyone we're still a team. I smiled, my heart pounding. I'd love to. I spent the day getting ready, doing my hair, putting on my favorite dress, the one that made me feel strong and beautiful. I looked in the mirror, remembering who I was before all of this, before the lies, before the betrayal, before I started shrinking myself to fit someone else's story. When we arrived at the restaurant, the staff greeted me like an old friend. Maria, the waitress from the anniversary party, hugged me, her eyes shining. I'm so glad you're here, Mrs. Turner. We missed you. I smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude. Thank you, Maria. I missed you too. The gala was in full swing. Music, laughter, the clink of glasses, the hum of conversation. David worked the room, shaking hands, telling stories, basking in the attention. I watched him, my heart steady, my mind clear. When it was time for the speeches, David took the microphone, his voice booming. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. It's been a tough year, but we've come through it together. And I want to thank my wife, Anna, for always being there, for making everything possible. He smiled at me, his eyes pleading. I stood up, my hands steady, my voice calm. Thank you, David, but I think it's time I said a few words. The room fell silent. All eyes were on me. I took the microphone, my heart pounding. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I want to thank the staff, who always make us feel welcome. And I want to thank my family and friends who have supported me through everything. I paused, looking at David, at the faces of the people who had watched me shrink, who had watched me disappear. But I also want to say this. For too long, I let myself be small. I let myself be invisible. I let myself believe that my worth was measured by how much I could give, by how much I could sacrifice, by how much I could endure. I looked at David, my voice steady. But I'm done shrinking. I'm done waiting for someone else to see me. I'm done letting someone else write my story. The room was silent, the air electric. I paid for this restaurant. I planned that anniversary party. I built this life, and I'm not giving it away to anyone who doesn't value it or me. I handed the microphone back to David, my head held high. The applause started slowly, then grew louder, filling the room. Ruth and Leela were on their feet, tears streaming down their faces. Maria hugged me, whispering, "You did it, Mrs. Turner. You did it." David stood there, stunned, his face pale. I realized then that I'd gotten the last laugh, not by hurting him, but by reclaiming myself. After that night, everything changed. The story of my speech at the gala spread quickly, first through the company, then through our circle of friends, and finally through the family. Some people called me brave, others called me reckless. But for the first time in years, I didn't care what anyone thought. I felt free. David moved out a week later. He packed his things quietly, barely meeting my eyes. He tried to apologize, tried to explain, but I stopped him. I hope you find what you're looking for, David, but I can't be the one to give it to you anymore. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, Anna, for everything. I watched him drive away, feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. I knew there would be hard days ahead, but I also knew I was strong enough to face them. Emily struggled at first. She missed her father, missed the way things used to be. But she was resilient, finding comfort in our new routines, movie nights, Sunday pancakes, long walks in the park. I talked to her honestly, answering her questions, holding her when she cried. One night, as I tucked her into bed, she looked up at me, her eyes wide. "Are we going to be okay, Mom?" I hugged her close, my heart full. "We already are, sweetheart, we already are." Ruth and Leela became my lifelines. We met for coffee every week, sharing stories, offering advice, reminding each other that we were more than the worst thing that had ever happened to us. I joined a book club, started volunteering at the community center, found joy in helping others heal. I started writing again, journals, letters, stories for myself and for Emily. I wrote about forgiveness, about starting over, about the way love can survive even the deepest wounds. I wrote about the lessons I'd learned, about the hope I still carried in my heart. David tried to stay involved in Emily's life. He called, visited, took her out for ice cream and movies. He was patient, gentle, never pushing for more than she could give. Sometimes we talked about the past, about what went wrong, about the ways we'd both changed. There were still hard days, birthdays, anniversaries, moments when the old pain flared up, but they were fewer, softer, easier to bear. As the months passed, the pain faded. The anger softened. The house felt like home again. Emily laughed more, played more, started to believe that life could be good again. I realized then that I was still here. I was still standing, and I was ready to begin again. Sometimes, the people we love most are the ones who make us feel the smallest. I never imagined that, on the night meant to celebrate my marriage, I'd be told to sit with the staff at a party I paid for, or that I'd have to take the microphone just to remind myself, and everyone else, of my own worth. But life has a way of teaching us that dignity isn't something you're given. It's something you claim, even if your voice shakes. If you've ever been overlooked, or if you've ever had to stand up for yourself in a room full of people who took you for granted, I hope you know you're not alone. Healing isn't quick, and it isn't easy. But with time, honesty, and a little bit of grace, it is possible. Sometimes the real strength is in saying, "I matter," not just to others, but to yourself. Would you have taken the microphone or tried to keep the peace for the sake of your family? Have you ever had to choose between protecting your heart and protecting your home? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share it with someone who might need a little hope tonight. Thank you for listening and for being part of this family. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, even after the deepest betrayal, you can still choose to begin again. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more true-to-life stories about love, loss, and finding your strength again. And if you know someone who needs a little hope tonight, share this video with them. It might be just what they need. Your support means the world to me, and every like, comment, and subscribe helps this family grow. Thank you for listening and for being part of this journey. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, even after the deepest betrayal, you can still choose to begin again.